Hello everybody. I'm so sorry it's been so long since I've posted a video. Sadly, I've recorded several tutorials and something went a little bit wrong with my camera and it kept deleting all of them around halfway through, but I've since worked with customer service to resolve this issue, and today I am going to finally post another tutorial. This is a bucket hat from my Bucket Hat Buddies collection. If you want to purchase a fully made hat already, please keep in mind these are all adult sizes. I do have a few other colors and one is also a bunny. I'll put a photo up on screen for you now just so you can see what that looks like. And if you're here for the tutorial, I will put the links to the specialty items I purchased in the description box, and that's just gonna include this yellow here because this one I did get from AliExpress, as well as the bows. Everything else you should be able to find in store. And this is Pipsqueak yarn, but the brand for the yellow is a different brand, and the pink is also Pipsqueak. If you're here to make this pattern with me today, let's get into it. Before we get into the yarn, we're going to go through the tools separately because there are quite a few different yarns I use and different colors. One of the first things, which is obviously going to be optional because you do not have to add bows, and I prefer to pick bows that match the color of the character I am making. You will also need a matching thread. You can see mine is in there, as well as a sewing needle, which is shoved on the underside of my spool of thread, so I can't really show it to you, but it is in there. The next thing you will need is obviously scissors, and then my well-loved hook. It is a 4.25. If you have a tighter gauge, meaning you crochet tightly, get a larger hook, and if you crochet very loose, you might want a smaller hook. This is a large darning needle. This will be for weaving in the ends on the base of your hat, not for sewing on the character, though you can, well actually no. Sorry, it's been a minute since I made this hat. I do use this to sew on the character. Okay, yes. This one is to sew all of your thick ends in, and this one I use only to sew or embroider a tiny little mouth on the character, which again is optional. I don't know the size of this needle, but if you know anything about cross stitch, it is about the size you would use for 11 count. And those are just the simple tools, and I will go over the size of the completed granny squares with you just so you can measure and make sure you're on track for it to fit on your head. For the main color of the hat I have shown you, I am going to be using Big Twist. I am not sure how to pronounce this color name, so I'm so sorry if I butcher it. Cerulean Blue? I'm not really sure. Another one that works, I believe, is Light Lavender from Red Heart. I believe it is the same, or not Light Sage. I don't have a skein that is not attached to a project right now, but for the white, it is also Big Twist, and it is just called the color white. For the mouth here, I am also using Big Twist, and I am using the color Watermelon, and this is a big ball, I know. And you only need a tiny little snip for each of the bears. For the white down here, it's a little bit different. I am using Pipsqueak, just the regular white one, and full disclaimer, this does take a lot of work. You don't have to do this, but I don't like my ruffles really thick. This separates into 3 separate strands, and it does take a lot of work and a lot of knotting to separate those strands and crochet them on, but thankfully you cannot see knots in this fuzzy yarn, so it shouldn't really be an issue. Just make sure your knots are tight so it doesn't unravel. This next one I will link below for you the exact color I got with the name it is under in the listing. It is very soft and similar to Pipsqueak. I do not separate the strands on this to crochet my bears, and that is just because if I separate this to make it thinner and crochet a bear of this size, it sadly does make it way harder to embroider the details onto the bear, and I don't like that. I want it to be quick and easy considering there are 4, so we will just be using the strand as it comes on this one. Also need to point out really quick before I forget, I do French knot the eyes out of the base color, so that is not a new color. And the final color, which is the pink in the ears and the blush, will be also called Pipsqueak. And this one's called Tickle Me Pink. And also the mouth is the same as the white Pipsqueak, but we also do not separate strands for the mouth. So those are our tools and supplies. So let's get started on the cute bear. The first step to this tutorial is going to be making the 5 granny squares that we will be using as the base of our hat. I have an unverified example for you. You can see here that there is 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of white and then a 5th row in our blue. And we have 4 granny squares made up like that. And then you will see we have an all blue one up on top, which will obviously be the top of our head, just because I think it would be a bit bulky and awkward to have a bear up on top. I'm going to show you how to make the granny square once in case you are new to granny squares. You will be making 4 with white centers, which is 4 rows, and then the 5th row will be blue. And for the top of granny square, you will be making 1, and all 5 rows are going to be in your blue. To get started, we will be making a magic ring. So take your thread or yarn coming straight from your skein, grab it and let it sit over 2 fingers, pull it down under your fingers, diagonally over the strand you already have, and then turn your hand right side up. You go under that first loop, grab your yarn, and then grab your working yarn and chain 1. From here we will be chaining 2, and I am going to count that as my first double crochet for my first cluster of 3. So we will double crochet 2 more into this ring. And that is your first cluster of 3. After this, we will chain 2. Now we will put in 3 more double crochet into that ring. Make sure you can see what you're doing. I have trouble because I have a camera right in front of my face and blocking my hands. And that is your second cluster. Chain 2, 3 more double crochet into that magic ring, And don't be afraid to tighten your ring a little bit if you need to. I have trouble working with loose crochet, so I'm just going to pull it tight a little bit. That's 3 clusters of 3, chain 2. And now we are only going to be putting 3 more into that ring. And one more time, we will be chaining 2. Make sure your tail is not all twisted around the thread that is left, and pull it tight and pull it down to the back. And now we are going to join into the top of the first chain 3 we made. And we're going to do that with a slip stitch. And this is the beginning of a granny square. So again, we are going to chain 3. And this is going to be our first stitch of row 2. And we aren't going to chain between the sides, we will only be chaining in corners. So after you're chained 3, which will count as your first double crochet, we will go right into the corner and double crochet 3. And since this is a corner, we will chain 2, and we will put 3 more double crochet into that same space. And that is our first corner completed. Now we will be going over to the next one, and remember, since we're going over this, we're working on the sides, so we will not be chaining. Put 3 double crochet into the next corner. Chain 2, and then put 3 more into the same space. And now we will jump to the next corner with 3 double crochet into it. And since it is a corner space, we will chain 2. And if you have not caught on, all of round 2 or row 2 is corner spaces. 3 more double crochet into that same corner. Let me move this out the way. I feel like my camera wants to focus on it. That is our third corner done. And now we will be double crocheting into the last corner. 1, 2, 3, chain 2. And remember that this chain 3 counts as a double crochet, so that's 1 double crochet, and we will only be working 2 more this time. And we will slip stitch into the top of that chain 3. And that is row 2 completed of your granny square. For row 3, this stitch is going to once again start as a chain 3, which will count as a double crochet. And we will double crochet 2 more right next to that. We're going to be jumping to the first corner and double crochet 3 into the corner. Chain 2 because it is a corner space, and put 3 more double crochet into that spot. Now we will be going into the next side space with 3 double crochet. And into the corner again. And since this is a corner, we'll chain 2 and 3 more double crochet. So how this is just going to build up is for every space on the side, you will be putting 3 double crochet, and you do not chain between these clusters. You only chain 2 to make a corner. You're working into another side space, so we will not be chaining. We will work 3 double crochet. And now we will put 3 double crochet into the corner. Chain 2 to make that turn for the corner, and 3 more double crochet into that same space. Three double crochet into the side space. Three into the next corner. Chain 2 to make that turn, and 3 more double crochet into that same corner. And right here we are back to our chain 3, which counts as the first double crochet, and we're just gonna slip stitch into that 3rd chain of the chain 3. Now we have 3 rows completed. I'm going to chain 3, and I'm going to count this as the first double crochet, or technically the last double crochet of this cluster. And we are going to skip over into this next space with 3 double crochet. Skip over into the corner and put in 3 double crochet. Chain 2 for your corner and put in 3 more double crochet into that same space. Now skip over to the next space and put in 3 more double crochet. Skip to the next space and put in 3 double crochet. Skip to the corner and put in 3 double crochet. Chain 2 and 3 more double crochet into the corner. Skip to the next space and put in 3 double crochet. Skip to the next space and put in 3 double crochet. And skip over to the next corner for 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Skip to the next space, 3 double crochet, skip to the next space, 3 double crochet, skip to the final corner with 3 double crochet, chain 2, and 3 more double crochet into the corner. And now we are going to skip to the space we started in and put in 2 double crochet. And we are going to slip stitch into the 3rd chain up from when we started the row. And that now counts as our first double crochet. So this is all you'll be doing for 4 of the squares, which will have the white centers. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. You can go ahead and cut your yarn here. And I highly suggest you weave in your ends as you go, because if you don't with this project, you will feel like you are weaving in ends for hours. I kid you not. So I'm gonna go ahead and weave in the ends of each of my granny squares as I complete a color section, just to ease up some of the stress when it comes towards the end of your project. I like to weave in my ends by going with the flow of the yarn. The yarn is coming out up over here and wants to go this way, so I'm going to start by sewing it in that way. And I am using a smaller needle, it's just a preference, but I recommend using the larger needle. It is easier to pull through, especially if you have weak hands. Once I've pulled it through in that one direction, I'm going to skip the last loop it came out from under, go over it, and then go in the reverse direction. And that's really just gonna anchor down your thread and make it more hardy so your ends don't come out with use, or in case someone does put it in the wash. And that is another reason why I recommend using acrylic yarns. But I do not recommend washing these hats in a washer, even on the hand cycle, because of the pipsqueak yarn. One more end to weave in. And as you can see, when I use a smaller needle to weave in my ends rather than my larger darning needle, I like to untwist the threads, flatten them out a little over my needle, and then just kind of pinch it into my fingers and wiggle it through. And I'm not really one to do the seamless join on here, because you will just be crocheting over this with the blue color for our final row. So I just like to go down on the back side diagonally into that chain 3 where we ended, and then I will go under the cluster of 3 . See, I went under that cluster of 3. And now I'm going to pick up a random strand and go back under that cluster of 3. Pick up a random strand from this side and go through that 3 cluster again. and then I will cut my thread. Again, this just really ensures that your ends are not going to come out, because if you want to give this as a gift, you usually want your gifts to look and hold up pretty well, and weaving in ends like this really just makes it impossible to take them out. Now is the time to swap to your blue if you have not already been doing the solid color blue square. And this time we are going to make a slip knot. So a slip knot basically is, this is the working end, meaning this thread is coming from my, this thread on this end is coming from my skein. You, like this, and you're gonna want to do this with it. Flip it like that. Put your fingers through that loop. Grab the thread from your working end and kind of pull it through when you're holding your ends down. And then don't pull it all the way tight on your hook. And once your loop is not seriously large, it doesn't matter where you pick up from. I am just gonna go ahead and do it right here. Do make sure it is right in front of a corner. That's just if you want to follow me anyways. And see, we keep it looser so it can kind of wrap around without bringing that knot to the front of our granny square. And you are going to act like you are chaining one. And then you are going to chain two more, and that is going to be the first double crochet. I'm going to put in one more double crochet because I want this to kind of be the center. You don't have to do it this way. You can go ahead and start with all three double crochet in this space, but I like to even out where my ends get woven in. So I am just going to do my chain 3 and 1 double crochet. Next space you will put in 3 double crochet. Skip to the next space and put in 3 double crochet. Skip into the corner with 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Skip to the next space with 3 double crochet. Three double crochet into the next space. Three double crochet into the next space. Three double crochet into the corner. Chain 2. 3 more double crochet into that corner. Now we will be going to the next space and putting in 3 double crochet. Skip to the next space and put in 3 double crochet. Skip to the corner and put in 3 double crochet. Chain 2. 3 more double crochet into the corner. Skip to the next space with 3 double crochet. Into the next space with 3 more double crochet. And we are almost done. 3 double crochet into the next space. And 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet into that last corner. And once you are complete that last corner, go ahead and put your last double crochet into the starting space we had worked in. And now that gives us 3 double crochet and slip stitch into the top of your chain 3. If I can get the darn hook through. And from here, you can go ahead and cut your thread. So here you have your completed granny square, and they do curl a little. That does just help make the hat more rounded. The measurements for this completed granny square, let's look at them. So without stretching my granny square, it's around 5 inches by 5 inches. Now if you do block your hats, they will widen up a bit, so if you accidentally crochet a little too tight, do not worry about it. I personally do not block my products because blocking acrylic is sometimes a little bit touch and go, but I know a lot of people also just don't want to work with steam or hot water. And I'm going to go ahead and weave in these ends so I just have a nice clean granny square with no ends getting in the way later on. So remember, we're going to be making 4 of these with the white in the middle. So 4 rows of white and 1 row of blue. And then you are going to make 1 solid blue granny square with all 5 rows of blue. You can re-watch how to make this granny square as many times as you need to. Once you have all 5 granny squares completed and your ends woven in, come and meet me back here. You can see now that I have finished my 4 squares with the white center and blue on the outside, and then the 1 blue granny square that's going to go on the top. So for now, we're going to take 2 of the squares with white and put the rest aside. Get a slip knot on your hook, or make a slip knot first. That on the hook in a minute. And what we're gonna do to join these is make sure the right side is facing, so both of your right sides should be touching, and you're just gonna put your hook through both of the pieces' corners. Get your slip knot and don't pull it tight yet. Pull it through. And there goes my yarn to the floor. And now you can tighten it a little and chain 1. And what we're going to do here is single crochet into that same corner, chain 3, and then we're going to go into the next space and make sure you go through it on both pieces. You are going to single crochet into it, chain 3, go into the next space through both pieces, single crochet, chain 3, put your hook into the next space through both pieces and single crochet, chain 3, go into the next space and single crochet, chain 3, go into the corner on the other side of the squares, single crochet, chain 1 to secure that down, and then you can go ahead and cut your yarn, leaving a long enough end to weave in. Let me just pull this up a little since it did fall to the floor. I don't want to lose that strand. And just pull it out. Let me find my needle here. And how I like to do it again is to untwist, kind of rub it there to get them all flat, and just kind of wiggle that through. And I'm just going to show you how I weave in these ends on one of them, but it's the same for both sides and all pieces. I like to go down into the corner underneath that single crochet we made and down through the double crochet, and then I will go underneath all of these loops that were worked in the corner. Pick up a strand here so I can turn around without pulling the tail out. And then I will do that one more time, go under a different strand than what we came out from, and come back out the other side. And you don't have to do these ones as you go, since we did weave in some ends as we made the squares. And this is what the front side will be looking like. And now remember, we gotta connect all 4, so go ahead and pick a side. Make sure the right sides or the fronts are facing. Insert your hook into the corners. Pull your slip knot through, tighten it just a little bit, chain 1, single crochet into the corner, chain 3, into the next space, and single crochet, chain 3, into the next space, and single crochet, chain 3, into the next space and single crochet, chain 3, into the next space and single crochet, chain 3, into the corner and single crochet, chain 1, and cut your yarn. And I cut that a bit too long, but that's okay. Let me just get rid of some of it so it's not flopping everywhere. So now we have 3 connected. I'm going to take the last granny square with the white center, right sides facing. Get your slip knot ready. Into the corner. And pull up your slip knot. Chain 1. And then we start again with the single crochet, chain 3, single crochet into the next space, chain 3, single crochet into the next space, chain 3, single crochet, chain 3, and single crochet, chain last corner, single crochet, chain 1, pull it through, tighten that up. And now that we have all 4 connected, make sure the right side is still facing up, and we're going to fold it in half. And we're just going to do the single crochets and chain 3 across here as well to kind of close that off and make it a ring. Alright, that was the last single crochet, and I am not going to cut my yarn this time. Keep the wrong side facing out, and now we are going to take the top granny square. We're going to be kind of working in a circle with the right side facing inward, and that means for the top one, since we are working this inside out, we want the wrong side facing up. So we're going to have our wrong sides facing towards us. You can just hold this blue granny square to any of these to start, and what you're going to do is, see where we put our last single crochet, you're going to put your hook back in that corner, and then you're going to pick up the bottom right corner on your top granny square, and you are just going to single crochet again. And this is pretty much the same as when we were joining the other granny squares. You're going to chain 3, go into the next space on both pieces, and single crochet, chain 3, go into the next space on both pieces, chain 3, single crochet into the next space on both pieces, chain 3, single crochet into the next piece or space on both pieces, chain 3, and then the corners are going to be different. So go into that last corner, and the same on your top piece, go into the last corner and single crochet. And now we are going to jump onto the next square and put your hook into that corner. And this time we're going to put our hook back into the same corner on the top piece that we just single crocheted in. And this is what it should be looking like. You can see we joined the corners all the way across, and then this corner on the top one gets joined to the corner of this square and this square. That way we can just start again with our chain 3 and then joining them both through the next space with a single crochet. And this is exactly how it will be worked all the way around. Chain 3, single crochet in the next space, chain 3, single crochet in the next space, chain 3, single crochet in the next space, chain 3, single crochet those corners together, turn your work and go into the next corner of the other or the new granny square and back into the one we just single crocheted into on the top granny square. And then we just repeat from here, chain 3 and single crochet. And to end, you can see the top of this last granny square is not joined into the corner of the top granny square. So we, right here, are just going to insert into both of those corners, single crochet, and then what I like to do is slip stitch into the first single crochet we made when we started working around the top. just pull that through and weave in your ends, and it does look kind of like a square when it's inside out. And you can just go ahead and flip this inside out at this point. I like to use my hands to stretch it a little bit to kind of make those corners a bit more rounded. Another thing you can do is block it if you want to. I try not to. Do not block it aggressively. If you do decide, just kind of get it wet and gently drape it over something round or a mannequin head if you have one. But you can see just by pulling it, I already got this pretty even. But it does also adjust as you wear it. And this is the bucket part of the bucket hat. Super simple to do, right? The next step we have on this hat is just doing a row of double crochets. And for that, we basically just do 2 double crochets in the loop nearest you. So you're going to make your slip knot. Let me zoom you in. It doesn't matter where you start on the hat. So what you're going to do is have the hat upside down, and you are going to find any loop that's facing you, and do make sure your hat is right side out at this point. It should be looking like this on the seams. Insert your hook into a loop that is facing your body when you are holding your work upright. And you're going to slip stitch into that and chain 1. This is not going to count as a double crochet in this instance. So we are going to put 2 double crochet into that loop we just joined in. And then you can see we have this stitch right here. You're just going to pick up that loop closest to you again and put in 2 double crochet. And this is what we're going to be working all the way around. And I will show you what I like to do when I get to the joins. So any spot here near the joins that sticks out, I go ahead and I will double crochet 2 into that space. And for the join itself, which is the underside of those single crochets, I will just pick up a loop right around, let me just drop my hook. I will pick up some of those strands and I will put 2 double crochet into those strands as well. That way we're not getting any holes between the spaces. And it does not matter the count. Stitch count does not matter for this part. You just got to make sure every loop you do pick up, you are putting in 2 double crochet. And so you just do this all the way around. I'm back to where I had started, and to join these together I'm going to slip stitch into the top of the first double crochet. And then I'm going to cut my yarn. And we are all done with the blue. So it does give this kind of little messy ruffled edge, but what working in that loop closest to you does is help it sit out a little more and look a little more defined and free floating than if we were to go through both loops. The last thing to do on this hat before we can add our bears is to get this fluffy white border. Getting the border done on this hat is going to be a bit frustrating and tiresome if you decide to separate down to 1 thread. If you don't want to separate down to 1 thread, I recommend just single crocheting into every space instead of doing what I prefer to do. So I will pull a much longer length than what I'm going to show you from my Bernat Pipsqueak yarn. And I will warn you, it does take a lot of effort to separate these strands, and it can be frustrating, but to me it's worth it, especially where I want my hats to be a quality I personally like and would be willing to sell. So once you get your strand, you should be able to just kind of tug at the fuzz and find those 3 strands. In order to pull these apart more successfully, I'm only going to separate one at a time, and it does take a while. So you're just going to be pulling your one strand out, and pulling the first strand out is always going to be the hardest. Once this first strand is out, the other 2 will be so easy to separate. And I do like to use my chin to hold the 2 strands together while I pull and hold at the bottom. Holding at the bottom just helps it to not twist up wrong or incorrectly. And then I like to run my hand down the length to help get some of that twist out before pulling again. And that just makes it a little bit more easier, but keep in mind, the longer of the strand you're trying to separate, the harder it will be to untwist. That's one strand out. Make sure you don't tangle them. And it will be a lot of knotting again, like I said, but this really helps you get more out of your skein of fluffy yarn. It is more expensive yarn, so separating them also just gives you more use. Again, I'm holding this strand under my chin. And now the last 2 strands are separated. So what I do is I just kind of do a basic knot, because where this yarn is fluffy, it's gonna hold itself pretty easily. So I just throw a few knots in there. Give it a tug, and then I will trim those 2 tails off. And then I will move down to the other end, and I will tie another knot with the other strand. And this is just sort of how I piece together a long enough amount to crochet the edges of my hats. Again, I mostly do this so the edge of the hat isn't super thick, and it does give me more use out of my Bernat yarn. Give it a tug, and don't pull too tight because you will snap it. When this yarn is not worked up, it tends to be more fragile. And now I'm to the final end, and now we have all 3 lengths together. And what we're going to do is have the hat facing this way again, and it once again does not matter where you decide to pick up here, but this time it is important to note that we will be working through both loops. So make your slip knot, grab a spot on that hat, pull it through, and chain 1. And we are going to repeat this pattern all the way around. We are going to do 1 double crochet in the first stitch, sorry, half double crochet. We're going to do 1 half double crochet in the first stitch, and a half double crochet increase into the next stitch. And if you do not know what an increase is, that is just 2 of the same stitches in one stitch. 1 half double crochet, 2 half double crochet into the next stitch. 1 half double crochet, 2 half double crochets into the next stitch. One half double crochet, 2 half double crochets into the next stitch. You are going to repeat this all the way around through both loops until you get back to where you started, and it is sometimes hard to find that starting loop, so really it doesn't matter where you slip stitch into here. As long as you slip stitch into there and then pull your tail through, it will be fine, because it is harder to notice. And what I like to do is separate my strands and tie them to the end of the working strand I just created as I go. And that just, you know, it helps to take breaks. If I'm being honest, when it comes to separating this yarn, it helps to just separate one strand that you cut off into the 3 and make a length, crochet it, and then separate another one, because if you sit there just separating strands, you are going to hate your life. Again, through both loops, the pattern the rest of the way around will be 1 half double crochet into the first stitch and 2 half double crochet into the next. So do that all the way around and I'll meet you back here. Now that all the ends are woven in and we have crocheted on our fluffy border, the hat will be looking like this, which is the base we need to make our cute bear hat. So the next step is going to be the bears. Now, of course, you don't have to add bears to your hat if you don't want to. You could stop here and just sew on bows if you so wish. I just think the bears are super cute and really bring it all together. I noticed online as well that you can find hats similar to this style but with cherries in it. So if you were trying to make that cherry hat that you've been seeing everywhere, you can go ahead and just look up a cherry applique tutorial and add your cherries. But since we are here for the bears today, let's get into how I make these bears. So to start with the bears, I use this yellow yarn from AliExpress. This is softer than Pipsqueak. I really adore this yarn. It's so nice. And it is pretty cheap as well, but you don't get a whole lot of it per ball. So to make the bear, you are just going to make your magic ring. And this is going to be done not totally loose, but on the looser end, so try not to have tight tension. And we are going to single crochet 7 into this magic ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you are going to find that tail and pull it tight and make sure that it's sitting towards the back of your work. We aren't going to be joining here. From here, you can kind of feel where the first single crochet is, and I am going to increase into that. And if you can't find the exact stitch, that is fine. Just shove your hook in there near the start and put in 2 single crochet. No one's gonna see that you missed. So that was 1 increase. Increase into the next stitch. So that's the second increase. Another single crochet increase, so that was 3 increases. a 4th single crochet increase, and I definitely cannot feel my stitches with this yarn, so I am just inserting my hook a little more in front of it, and I lost my count. 4, I think. I'll put on screen how many increases I did. So I just did another increase. Oop. Another increase. Another increase. And I believe one more increase is what I typically do. And I do like to measure my bears because I'm not very specific with this. And from here, I believe what I tend to do is double crochet into the next stitch. One more double crochet into that stitch. Chain 2. Slip stitch down into the stitch we just placed our 2 double crochet, and then we are going to slip stitch across. Oh, hold on, let me count. 1, 2, 3. So slip stitch across 3, chain 2, put your 2 double crochet into that same space that we slip stitched into before our chain 2. And this time we are just going to slip stitch into the next stitch. Now this is not a super accurate method, this is just how I make my bears. So if you were to do this with yarn that is not fuzzy, I can promise you it will not look good. If you ever wanted me to make a tutorial of a bear like this without fuzzy yarn, I'd be happy to, but I do not think it would look cute. So once you're done with that, you pull out a pretty good sized tail, and you'll see why when it comes to weaving on these bears. And pull that long tail through. And then I like to just insert my hook a little below where that tail is coming out and pull it down from the front. That way it sits under the work instead of coming out the top of the work. And so you can see here we have a bear shape. And I like to just pull the tail from the magic ring and put a knot or two. The back of these bears are not going to be pretty. I do not really weave in the ends for this part. I just kind of tie knots on the back and cut the thread. But it really doesn't matter, as you won't be seeing the backside of these bears. So that is one bear shape with a tail to sew him on. And now let's get on to the muzzle part. Alright, so back to the white Softy Baby yarn. You're going to make a magic ring again. And this time I am going to single crochet more tightly, and I am going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm gonna go ahead and put a 6th stitch in there and pull my tail tight. Okay. It is a little bit harder to pull the tail tight when you are crocheting tightly with fuzzy yarn. And then you are just going to slip stitch into that first single crochet made, and you are going to cut your tail. Remember, leave a length where you can sew this onto the bear and pull it through. And that is the muzzle. It's just a fluffy little circle. Again, I'm going to take the tail from the center of that magic ring and put some knots under it so I can cut it off. The next step here is going to be sewing on a mouth. And this is where, you know, I think it would be easier to go ahead and actually sew the muzzle on first. So let's get a darning needle, and you can use a thicker one for this because it is such fluffy yarn. I'm gonna make sure my thread is coming out the back side of that muzzle. And you are going to pick up your little fluffy bear and just kind of slap that muzzle on there, not completely near the bottom. So it's not going to be centered in your bear, but it's going to be slightly more towards the bottom than the top, but not too close to the bottom, or else you will not be able to sew it on. And since we do not see the back side of these bears, I just stab it right through, and then you stab through the back, and you are going to come right up through that white muzzle, and you are just going to do that all the way around to tack it down. Now again, this part of this tutorial is more so of a recipe than an actual tutorial. This is just something I do to make these bears without following an exact pattern, as I do not have one. And once you are satisfied that your muzzle is sticking down appropriately and not going to come up, I like to just scoop up whatever I can from the back side of the work. Don't pull all the way through. Put in your hook and just make a knot, and then I will make one more knot underneath that. And cut that off. Now the bear has a section for his little muzzle, super cute. The next thing you're going to need is a length of your watermelon color thread or yarn. I keep calling it thread, it's yarn. And I'm just going to do that thing I do where I untwist it. Thread my smaller needle. You will need the smaller needle for this, and you may also even need needle nose pliers to pull the needle through. Sometimes, I don't always, but it does seem to be an issue that I have. So come up through the bottom left, and this is when it's facing you, so not the bear's left, but your left. We're gonna come through the bottom left of the bear. Don't pull it all the way through, but do be mindful to not sew through this like I accidentally had. Go towards the middle of that white muzzle. And then we go up from the bottom right. Back into that middle, and there you have a cute little mouth. And then what I like to do is go to the top left and kind of make another one of these V's, but upside down. So from the top left, oops, I guess it wasn't left enough. It's okay if it's not perfect, you can always just keep twisting your thread. I'm going to try one more time, go a little more left, top left, into the center of that bear, and then top center, into the center of the bear. And now the top right. and into the center. And now you can see you kind of have this space up here, so you just want to fill these all in to complete the nose by going from the top to the center. And it does not have to be perfect. Alright, you can see here that I got the basic shape of the nose, and since I want it to be a bit more tidy, I'm going to pick a side and come out from the side. And I'm going to go across and through the other side. And that just cleans up the nose a little bit. And since I don't want to cut the fur here, I might go down a little bit below it and come out and back into the center, just to make that one little part of the mouth a bit more even with the other side. Alright, I'm going to be calling that good enough. That is the mouth of my bear. And now I'm just going to knot the two strands on the back side together. Alright, so now this little guy needs some eyes. We're going to be using the blue that we did for the base of the hat. Oh, there's a knot in my yarn. Alright, so I'm gonna just cut a length off here. I'm going to be using my larger darning needle. Alright, so what we're going to do here is a French knot. Insert towards the center side of the muzzle and come out. And pull your yarn through, but not all the way. Leave a tail. What we're going to do now is, you see, this is the part of the thread coming out of the bear. We are going to take our needle, still threaded, and face it up. And we are going to wrap this around it 5 times. And then I like to hold it with my finger. And now we are going to insert towards the top right of the muzzle. And just kind of keep those twists held gently by your thumb. And you are going to pull it through. And to fix this, you will pull that little tail that you left, and there you have one eye. Just like with the mouth, I'm going to simply secure that by tying a knot with the 2 ends on the back. And now this cute little bear has one eye. So again, from the center side of the muzzle, we will be pulling up our yarn. Don't pull all the way through. Hold that yarn coming out of his face up, face your needle up, and wrap 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Kind of push those down with your hand or your finger. Secure them by holding them. And then insert to the top left this time of the muzzle. And pull through gently. And then pull the tail from when we first went up and through down gently. And that is the second eye. Now again, these don't have to be perfect. I think they're super cute even when they are a little different on each side. It just adds personality to the bears. You're obviously going to like some more than others, but regardless, I think they're all just as cute. Now there is only one thing left to do with these cute little berry bears. We're now going to be using the pink Pipsqueak or Bernat yarn. I like to pull out a decent length for this. Mostly because I don't like rethreading my needle, so I tend to thread more than I need, which is kind of wasteful. And I do not separate the strands for this part. So for the cheeks, I like to put them on at a little bit of a diagonal. So I'm gonna go a little below the eye, come up through, but not all the way, so there's a tail hanging out in the back. And then I go just past his eye and up. And that gives a little diagonal cheeky cheek. A little bit of blush. And then again, just tie a knot on the back. Don't pull too tight. You do want this to be able to sit comfortably on top of the yellow. If you pull it too tight, the pink will just kind of sink into it and get lost. So that is one cheek. All right, again, a little bit underneath the eye. And then a little bit up and out from the side of the eye. And tie your knot. I'm going to pull this through gently a little bit more because I want more working yarn left on my needle. Cut those extra threads off. Now our bear has some blush. The last thing to do for the bear is the ears. So I just come up, imagine it cut off and just an ear, and you want to color in the center of this yellow portion. So again, I will pick a spot up here, come through but not all the way, and then go to the other side of the ear. And I will just sort of do that a bunch of times in the part of the ear that's sticking out. I will just go through one side, down out the other, one side, down through the other. My threads are trying to grab each other. And then once I get that how I like it, I don't really like how this one's coming through here. Let me just pull that one out. That was a little too on the edge for me, so I'm going to reel it in. Make sure not to weave these in too close to the edge, because remember, we do got to sew this bear onto the hat. All right, now that that ear is filled in, again, I just came out this side, went in on that side. Nothing fancy. There's really no wrong way to do it since it is fluffy yarn and hard to see where your strands are sitting exactly. People really can't judge you. Gonna cut that. One cute fluffy ear. And the same thing with the other ear. Just go in one side, or come up through one side and down in the other. Again, remember, these do not have to be perfect. They are cute, derpy little bears. And now we have a completed cute little bear. If you don't like the muzzle fur getting in the way of stuff, you can take scissors and trim that up if you want. But I think they are cute and derpy as they are. So you're going to make a total of 4 bears for this project. To sew it on, it's the same as any other applique, only I like to be messy with it because, again, it is furry yarn. No one's gonna see how neat or messy your ends are. So I've threaded my needle, and I like to try and put the bear sitting right above this last or bottom white row in the center, like this. So kind of like that. And then I just hold it down and pick it up, find where your yarn is coming out, and don't stab all the way through with this. Instead, scoop up some strands that are on the top facing part of your bucket hat. That way your ends are not going through to the inside of the hat. And then once you do that, you come up through. And I just do this randomly on the bears all the way around because, again, you can't really see it and where it's such thick yarn. So I came up here and I'm going to stab down in here to the underside of the bear. I'm going to scoop up just a few strands. That way it's not going all the way through. And I'm going to pull that thread through. And now you see how it kind of sits a little more to the right. That's where I'm going to go up through. And pull it through. Now, got a lint in there. Now I'm gonna go more to the side, stab through my bear, pick up a few more strands on the top of the work, pull the thread through, stab up through my bear a little more to the side. You can see this is where it came down, and I'm moving over, and this is where I'm going up through the bear. Now I'm going to stab down through again, pick up some strands, through the bear. And just kind of tack him down. That's all we're doing. Tacking the bear down. I think I actually sewed this one on lower than I did the other hat. That's fine. I just gotta make sure I sew all of the bears on this hat at the same level then, and it will be fine, because what difference does it make? Almost to where I had started. And I don't necessarily tie these off when I'm done. You can see this is where it's coming out. I stab in through the side of the bear itself, and I just kind of go between the bear and the hat and everything, or between the bear and the granny square. I just kind of stab right through his face, pull it through like this, and then I will do it again, stab in a different spot than where you came out, and I will just go back and forth like this 2 or 3 times, and that's really going to secure it down, especially where this is fluffy yarn. You're not going to see it, and it will catch on itself and your ends will stay woven in. And I accidentally pulled the hair through there. Oops. And sometimes your fluffs will get caught, just fluff them back out. And when you're done, go ahead and cut it. And you have a bear sewn to your hat. Super cute. I love these bears so much. So the last thing we have to do, obviously, is sew on the bows. I'm only going to show you how I sew on a bow. Again, I purchased pre-tied bows because it was cheaper than buying all the ribbon to tie my own. If you know how to tie a shoelace, you can easily tie a bow yourself. Alright, again, like I said at the beginning, you want bows and thread that somewhat match. And if you do purchase these bows that I use from AliExpress, they are not secured. They are literally just sewn and thrown in the bag, and I will show you how I make those secure. So what we're going to do is pull out a good length of your thread. And I will only be showing you this once again, and you will need to put it in every corner yourself. The way I'm going to thread my needle to make sure I can secure this bow is I'm going to put my ends together. And I am going to thread my needle and pull that through a little bit. Now to secure the bow, if you've hand tied your own or purchased one, it doesn't matter, it should be the same. There will be the good side with the flat front and the weird little back side. I like to come up from the, you can look and see from the bottom, I stab through the bottom of the bow like this towards the center, coming out towards the center of the bow. And you can see here I stabbed through one of those knot loops. I'm going to pull that needle up through, not all the way. Now I'm going to go back down slightly higher, and that should come out of the other little loop. Pull it through, and before you pull it all the way through like this, you're going to want to go in that loop we left, go through there and then pull tight, and that just kind of secures your thread and the bow so it doesn't come undone. So you have one secured bow. And with my bows, you can sew yours differently. I just couldn't find a spot I liked more than this. Let me double check. I'm pretty sure I got it. Yeah. I like to sew my bows just above where the corners of all of our granny squares meet. So you can see this is the corner, and then the corner of the top. I like to go more towards the top one's corner and sew my bows right where the 5th row starts. So up here. And to do that, since the thread comes at the center of our bow, I will go through to one side, pull that, and that will bring your bow to it. And what I like to do next is go from under the bow and come out right on the side of that knot. And then go back down a little bit more inwards towards the center of the bow. See, I'm not going through the yarn or anything yet. And then I'm going to go into the yarn underneath the bow and push it all the way to the other side of where the bow is sitting. And now I'm going to go back up through the bow again, right near the knot on the other side. Go inwards into that knot a little more and back through the bow. And then the last thing I like to do to secure this down is I will kind of just scoop up randomly. Go through the center of the bow at the bottom. I'm not sure how focused this is for you, but I will come out the center of my bow again, but this time after going through the yarn. And then I will go back through the center a little closer to the top and push it out the side. And then you have a secured bow. And the way I tie this off is I pull the loop and one tail to the side. You can kind of see your strands here of thread. I'm gonna go under one of those, not pull all the way through, and go under that loop, or through that loop I should say, and pull it tight. And then I like to work underside of the bow, so not up front where you can see it, but the underneath, like through the ribbon itself, and I will thread my needle back and forth 2 or 3 times and then cut it. Make sure you don't stab yourself doing this though. So 1, and see how I went through the ribbon but not where you can see my needle coming through on the front. Now you can just be a normal person and tie knots. I just don't trust regular knots like that. I always weave in ends even if I've tied a simple knot. And that is it for me. Snip. Alright, and that is how you will be sewing your bows on to every corner. Let me zoom out. You will put a bear on every white part and a bow on every corner, which will be 4 bows. And then you have one completed fluffy bear bucket hat. So that's all I have for today's tutorial. Let me know what you think. I'm sorry that I can't really be more specific with how I make the bears and sewing stuff on. I'm just not good at explaining things. This is why I tend to write patterns that are more clean and obvious, and why I decided to go ahead and make this one a free tutorial on YouTube instead, because I don't really have an exact math or method to making these bears. So I hope that me explaining the best I could how I do the bears themselves is good enough for you. Let me know what you think. Give the video a like if you liked the bears, and let me know what other cutesy crochet content you'd like to see. I do like to work with multimedia. I do have ribbons, I have lace, and I have fake flowers and all the sort. So let me know if you have any cute kawaii or multimedia crochet ideas that you would like me to try and create for you and make a video tutorial for on this channel. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and please, 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 if you make these, tag me on Instagram. My Instagram is the Dearest of Things, the same as my YouTube channel. I am not active on there, but if you do make this hat and want to tag me on there, go ahead and do that, and then just leave a comment below and I will pop back over onto that Instagram and give it a look. Alright, thank you guys for crocheting with me today. I will see you in the next video. Bye!